The Democrat establishment has said he needs to go. And there are reports that even top Democratic lawmakers are saying he needs to go, though outwardly they're saying the opposite. And yet the president is completely dug in. As far as I can see, none of these are bad options for Republicans, but you can see the Democratic Party in a seriously fractured mode right now. What do you make of it?
Well, I think this is a watershed moment in the main thing that this country is going through, which is an information revolution, and an information revolution that's really on the verge of an information crisis. What we saw at the debate was the collapse of this kind of fake planet that the Democrats have created by their incredible domination of the flow of information up until this point. So you have the networks, you have the New York Times, and the New York Times is really an underrated source of information for everybody else. You know, whatever is in the New York Times becomes the scripture for the rest of the media, and all of it was false. You know, the three words that no one is allowed to speak in America are conservatives were right. Once again, conservatives were right. Joe Biden is not fit to hold the office of the presidency. He's been a bookmark all this time. He's been a placeholder and a kind of acceptable face of a far left agenda that the rest of the Democrat Party is putting forward. They went from one lie. It was amazing. You know, before, if I can pat myself on the back for just one moment, before the debate,
Please?
I said that Joe Biden has dementia. Dementia is a progressive disease. And the right kind of has this fantasy that because the left controls so much of the information, they have utter control over information. They kept saying, well, they'll drug him, they'll give him a cocktail. And I said, at some point, we don't have a cure for this disease. It gets worse and worse, and It starts to speed up. And so I was kind of saying he might collapse. And at the same time, Donald Trump has established a new form of discipline, a new kind of restraint that nobody's been paying attention to either. So the debate was kind of exactly what I was expecting, but it was what no one else was expecting because of this dome of misinformation that the media is able to create. And that dome collapsed. I mean, it just fell down. And the question is, the really big question is, how much of the people, how much has the American audience adjusted to the lies? So in other words, were they seeing something that they had no idea existed before? Because I do talk to a lot of liberals. I work in the arts. I know a lot of people who are on the left. They usually have no idea what's going on. They read the New York Times. They think the New York Times is information instead of disinformation. So how shocked were they by what they saw? Most people, I think, understood that Biden has collapsed. I mean, Biden is, he's a senile guy. It's like, it's sad, but there it is. And so what the New York Times did was they shifted immediately from one lie to the next. One was the lie before the debate was that he was perfectly fine. Everything was just a cheap fake.
All the videos were cheap fakes.
It was all invented and all this stuff. The lie afterward was he should step down after a long and distinguished career. Well, Joe Biden has been a corrupt political hack with a nasty streak his entire life. And the idea that he is Lunch Bucket Joe and that he has some kind of sense of principle is a complete falsehood. This guy has just been
himself.
Kind of he's amazing. He's been the poster boy for unprincipled politicians. And so, what I'm asking myself is how much are people learning to adjust to the new information age? How much are they able to now parse information themselves without the gatekeepers who have been washed away by this fire hose?
I don't think the left is on board. I don't think the left. I think you're only speaking of independents and righties at this point. The left, some lefties, I mean, I know some who have pierced the veil and said, okay, I'm starting to see it, but it's the exception, not the rule. I do want to, because I've been wanting to put this together, but the notion that we can dismiss what happened on Thursday night is just, he was a little off. Everybody has good days and bad days.
Had a cold.
Is absurd. We just put it down to a 1 minute, but here's just a reminder of what happened that night.
Much more informed on the
this is actually a montage of overtime
of some of the political players and some of the political parties. Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here. America
Jackie
is a
was
nation
dead.
that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with somewhere between 700 billion and $1.3 billion. Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes.
Don't
Oh, my.
Mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit. Asylum officers and over 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect and stop fentanyl coming out our southwest border. Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years.
I really need the Archie Bunker button. I need the Archie Bunker button where he just says, "Huh, huh." That's so we've all seen that, okay? But it's worse. It's worse because I actually thought what we saw on stage was shocking, and I covered Joe Biden's, gaffes all the time. Even I was shocked by what I saw. And now you've got Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein fame and Watergate on CNN last night. This is kind of a longer clip, which we don't normally go over a minute because it gets boring, but this one's over a minute because listen to what he's reporting.
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, have been among them are some people who have raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. And what's so significant is the people that this is coming from, and also how many people around the president are aware of such incidents, including some reporters, incidentally, who have witnessed some of them. In the last 6 months particularly, there has been a marked incidence of cognitive decline, and people I've talked to have all been to Ron Klain in the last year to say, we have a problem. There was a fundraiser at which he started at the podium, and then he became very stiff, according to people there, as if it were almost a kind of rigor mortis. This was and he became very stiff, and a chair had to be brought for him to do the latter part of the event. There is no question. I have heard for 2 years how sharp Joe Biden is in his national security meetings. He has special briefing books. So we're clearly dealing with two sets of one person.
I mean, that is terrifying. 15 to 20 times where he's appeared as he did on that stage. Reporters have witnessed it too. Over the 6 months we've just experienced, there's been a marked decline that staff are complaining to Ron Klain, his former chief of staff and the guy who helped prepare him for the debate, that at a fundraiser he couldn't function and was frozen, rigor mortis-like. That's what a dead body has. This is deeply alarming. And yet what we hear today is that in that fundraising phone call, or the phone call that the chief of the campaign had with donors, she's touting the fact that he's gotten this clean bill of health from the medical doctor for his physical wellness. You remember they did not do a cognitive ability test. There's been, and by the way, Andrew, you and I both know if he actually were completely there and had no problems with dementia or any of the other types of dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's, or there's a lot of different kinds, they would put out a medical report tomorrow. They would have a doctor examine him. The doctor would come to the microphones to settle down the clamor over last Thursday night and say, this is absolutely normal aging. He doesn't have any sort of a condition. We did a cognitive test. He passed it with flying colors. There's a reason they're not doing this.
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, the donors are the same age as Biden, so they may not know what's going on either. But when you consider the usual discipline of the Democrat media complex, when you consider how carefully they march in line, how they use the same words all the time. He's sharp. There's nothing, he's all
sharp
there.
As a tack.
He's sharp as a tack. And they all say the same things. When you consider that that's starting to unravel, because guys like Carl Bernstein are not going to let their reputations go down the drain with Biden. Joe Scarborough may. He's kind of stuffing his into the compactor, his reputation into the compactor. But a lot of these guys are starting to say, well, I can't just go online when everybody can see the truth in front of them. So I think the donors are going to catch on. I think the party is going to catch on. I'm a little, I've been predicting that Biden was going to have to stand down for months, and he hasn't. So I can't say now, I'm not going to say now that he will, because he's clearly clinging to power with every ounce of strength that's in him. But at some point, this really does unravel, even for the left, not the left, but remember, most Democrats are not as far to the left as the party is. And they've got a second problem, which is that Trump is doing pretty well. You know, Trump is a guy who uses hyperbole all the time. He doesn't speak very articulately. He speaks in vague notions. But a lot, you know, their narrative after the debate was that, yes, Biden was off, but Trump lied. But the fact is, if you erase the hyperbole and if you erase the everyone is the best and everything hates everybody, you know, that kind of talk that Trump uses, a lot of the stuff Trump said was true. You know, Putin didn't take any territory during his presidency. It was more peaceful. There was more security at the border. All of the big points, his inflation was far, far better. And all of the big points that Trump made were true. And all of the big points that Biden made, that Trump had called Nazis, you know, fine people, that he had praised Hitler and all of those were untrue. So you've got this very, very strange moment when the entire narrative that has been an excuse for the lawfare, it's been an excuse for the January 6th persecutions, it's been an excuse for putting, you know, guys like Steve Bannon in jail. All of those things that they've been using kind of collapsed. The entire narrative collapsed.
This July 4th, as we celebrate the birth of our nation, it's important to reflect on the freedoms our forefathers fought for. But today, these freedoms are under attack. Look no further than the treatment of President Trump and the lawfare we're seeing this year. That's why now more than ever, we need organizations that are fighting back. AMAC is the Association of Mature American Citizens. And this is more than just a senior discount organization. AMAC is dedicated to protecting conservative values and defending our rights. Just listen to the way they talk about themselves in this ad copy. They're not afraid. They're ready to fight and to stand up for conservative values, unlike some other senior organizations, okay? You can learn more about how AMAC is actively fighting for your freedom by visiting amac.us/Megyn. By joining AMAC, you're not just becoming a member, you're becoming part of a movement. This July 4th, stand united. Join AMAC today and ensure that your voice is heard. amac.us/MEGYN. Together, Americans can make a difference. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.